Genealogy is supposed to be fun, right? But are you stuck trying to find that elusive ancestor? Not really sure where to turn to next? Hi everyone, I am Lisa Liston with Are You My Cousin, where I strive to take the overwhelm out of your genealogy research. Now, before we start talking about why you might not be finding those ancestors that you're looking for, I'd love it if you would hit that subscribe button. It's right down there in the bottom right-hand corner of the video because I don't want you to miss any of the new content that I post here weekly at the Are You My Cousin YouTube channel. But really, what's up with that? Does everybody else seem to be finding their ancestors, but you're not able to find yours? Well, I'm going to share with you today 5 reasons why you are not finding your ancestors in the records. Now, the first reason you may not be finding your ancestors is that simply your analysis of the records that you already have is incomplete. Now, I see this a lot with, for example, the census records. When I coach genealogy students and clients along, one of the most common things that we do is spend a lot of time in the census record, it seems. We're familiar with getting the ancestors, we find the household, but there's so much more there than just the household and the next door neighbors. So here's a tip for you guys as you're going forward with that. Remember, those documents that we find our ancestors in, we have to consider them as a whole. And in this case of a census record, we have to consider that whole census record for that district. So there's a lot there that we might not be mining and finding for our ancestors. Now, the second reason that you may not be finding your ancestors, I often hear, is that the courthouse burned or the records didn't survive for some reason. Maybe it was a flood, maybe it was a natural disaster of some other type, maybe they just got lost, or maybe they just kind of walked away and nobody's really sure where the records are. This is a very common scenario, and it happens. It doesn't mean that when you're out there researching and you don't find the records that you need and you're not finding your ancestor that you've done anything wrong. If the records aren't there, you simply can't research them, right? Well, I don't want you to let that slow you down because there are other record sources out there that are not held at the county courthouse. So in other words, you might want to look at federal records, you might want to look at newspapers, look at the church records for birth, marriage, and death, look at the cemetery surveys. Lots of things are out there in the community that might generate records for your ancestors that you are overlooking. So don't let a burned county designation or a burned down courthouse or the fact that the records just did not survive, don't let that completely throw you off. Start looking for those other resources. Okay, so the third thing that may be keeping you from moving and forward in your research and finding your ancestors is that you are not getting off the genealogy databases like Ancestry.com, Find My Past, My Heritage, Family Search. Your research will benefit from you getting off of the genealogy sites and checking out special collections, checking out other digital collections that you might find, say at university archives, at the state archives. There's a lot that is out there online, but you're not really sure what to look for. And that's okay. Just a good place to start is to use Archive Grid. I will put a link to in the description below to use that. That is a great way to find other resources and special collections that you may not have thought to look at before. Now, the fourth reason you may not be finding your ancestors is because you are not getting offline. If you have never run through a cemetery in your Sunday dress after church to get that one last photograph before having to stop at the Piggly Wiggly before it closes on the way home, then you need to get out of the house a bit more. Now, yes, this is exactly an experience I had early in my research, and it truly brought out the reason. It drove home that point to me that I have to get offline and out of the house to do my genealogy research. In this case, I spent a wonderful couple hours in a van with 5 cousins. We stopped by 3 cemeteries, the rural cemeteries, plus we stopped at the Piggly Wiggly, which is a grocery store in our area, to pick up something for dinner. It was a wonderful day. I learned where all the family cemeteries are. I learned that family cemeteries actually existed when nobody remembered them previously. I got the oral history, I got the stories, I picked up clues as to other people to talk to. I got my research offline, and it was such a valuable experience. I would encourage you to do it as well. Now, the fifth tip that I want to share with you about why you may not be finding your ancestors is because you are not making use of other valuable research tools. Now, these are not necessarily genealogy specific tools. In fact, there are a number of tools, wonderful tools that are out there that you can use in your genealogy research, but they're applicable to all types of research. They're not that genealogy specific thing. So examples would be Google Books. Now, you guys know I love Google Books. I talk a lot about Google Books over on the website. And if you're interested, I will link below to a blog post that I have on the Are You My Cousin website that can tell you a little bit more about Google Books and using them in genealogy. But there's Google Books, WorldCat, Archive Grid. So many people are not using Archive Grid, and it is an extremely valuable tool to search special collections around the US and around the world to find materials that might be helpful to your research. So get away sometimes from the main databases, genealogy databases that you've been using, and start to explore using tools such as Archive Grid, Google Books, WorldCat, Percy, those types of resources that will help you in your genealogy research. Now, I would love to know if you identified with any of those 5 reasons for why you are not finding your ancestors. Leave me a comment below. I would love to kind of hear where you're at with your research. Me, obviously, I identify with all of those reasons, all 5 of those reasons of why my research stalled out. But the difference is I learned how to overcome those. And once you recognize maybe why your research is kind of stalled or why you're not finding ancestors, then you can start to create ways and to find ways to overcome that. And that's what I want you to do. I don't want you to be overwhelmed by the fact that you can't find them just in the traditional genealogy databases, or to feel like you're doing something wrong because you're not finding them. I want you just to enjoy the process, but also be successful. Now, if you want to get my eyes on your research to kind of maybe help you analyze some of the documents that you found or create strategies for your next research projects with your ancestors, you might want to consider my Genealogy Coach for a Day program. It's a chance to get a pair of fresh eyes on your research. Sometimes when we research genealogy and we're stuck and we're working on the same problem, we're too close to our research, right? And so it's difficult to see new strategies or new ways of thinking. So it's a chance to get my eyes on your research and to help you develop perhaps new strategies or to maybe better understand a record, whatever it is you need in your research that is going on at that time. It's an opportunity. Some folks like to use it to dive really deep into understanding an ancestor. Maybe it's not finding the ancestor, but maybe it's understanding their life a little bit more. Maybe it's really kind of trying to take out 1 or 2 bricks out of a brick wall or knock it down completely. It's an opportunity for you to get the right amount of support that you need to get your research back on track. We'll take a look at where you are in your research and come up with the strategies that would be helpful to move you forward. You'll have that chance to start to try to implement those strategies then, and then discuss. If we have questions, you can come back to me and we can talk about why something is working or why it is not working or what you found means. It's a chance for us to have an ongoing dialogue about your research for the day. If you want to learn more about the Genealogy Coach for a Day program, I've got the URL across the bottom of the screen. You head over there and you can learn more about the Genealogy Coach for a Day program that I offer. Now, one of the interesting things, the ways I do this, and that really makes this a little more unique, is that essentially we'll be together all day, but we're not tied together all day. I use an app for the coaching program called Voxer, Voxer, and it is basically a walkie-talkie app that lets us message each other back and forth. Now, why do I use Voxer to do this as opposed to a Zoom call or something? Well, for a day-long program, I find that messaging back and forth allows us to kind of have some space between messages. So when you perhaps message me, I can stop and really think. I don't have to answer right away. It gives me an opportunity to kind of sit back, think, stop, and process what's going on. And vice versa for you. As we discuss the strategies, then you can go off. You can make you have a quick question, you just message me and I can get right back to you. So it's kind of an ongoing dialogue across the Walkie Talkie app. It is super easy to use. Can use it on your smartphone or on a web-based app, and you'll see more about that over at that URL as well when you go learn more about the Genealogy Coach for a Day program. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me. I would love to be able to answer your questions as well as help you get your research moving forward again.